I'm going to show you how you can add a performance dial to your presentation using that infographic. So first you want to click on the Engage tab and then select Infographics. Then you'll want to scroll down to this dial over here. So this is the performance dial infographic. So select it and then click Insert. And then I'll just drop that dial right onto the slide. So the dial is a great infographic when you're trying to show some type of performance or some type of result. And more importantly, you're trying to show two results. You're trying to show, in this case, what the result was for this period versus what it was for last period. And so it quickly shows that you've exceeded the performance for this period versus last period. And then the third piece of information that it also allows you to show is, in this case, like a target. So you can show what you achieved this period, what you achieved last period, and then what the target is. So you have three pieces of key information that you can show visually using this performance dial. So what I'm going to show you now is how you can edit it to make it your own with your own data. So first you'll want to click on Edit Data, and this will open up an Excel embedded worksheet. And so there's quite a bit of information that you can customize here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go one by one here. So the minimum and the maximum values are these values that you see at the end of the dial. Later on I'll show you, you have the option of not even showing them, but this is how you edit them via the Excel spreadsheet. So here what I'll do is I'll just, instead of making this 50 million, I'll make this 60 million. So the maximum will go from 50 million to 60 million. And what you'll see is that relative to those min and max values, the target and the values for this period and last period will adjust accordingly. So the other piece of information is the primary title. So in this case, the primary title is this period. So you can change this from this period. You can change this to a key performance metric that you have in mind, something more specific. It could be actual versus planned. So I'll show you examples of that as well, but this is where you would edit this. So let's just go ahead and make this actual. And the secondary title here, let's make this planned. So you can go ahead and change this. And when we close this, you'll see it'll all update in the dial. The primary value is the value here, the 39 million. The secondary value is this value here, that 35 million. And then finally, the target, you can change the title. So instead of being target, you can change this. For example, let's call this benchmark, and you can also change the value for the target. Now you'll notice here I have the formatting as default in millions, but if you right click and you go to format cells, if you don't want it in million, you can just go ahead and put a general number. You could put a divider, a separator for using commas to have things in thousands. So whatever formatting you prefer in Excel, whatever you do here in Excel, Engage will piggyback off of that and use the same formatting in the infographic. So with that being said, let's go ahead and close this spreadsheet, and then it's updated. So now you see this used to be 50 million, now it's 60 million. And then this was, I think, was this period versus last period. Now what we've done is we've done actual versus plan, and this used to be called target. Now it's called benchmark. So once you have that data in there with your own data, it'll update automatically based on the data that you've inputted. So the other thing is I'm going to show you now are just the different formatting options that you have here. So the first option is the primary value. So what you can do is you can show the title or not show it using this checks box. So let's go ahead and just leave that there. The font, you can change the color and the size of the font. So if you want it to, for example, make it blue to match the field here, you could do that. You can change the size of it as well. And then the other thing that you can do is you can change the value. So let's go ahead and uncheck show value. And so in this case, you won't see the value, but let's go ahead and just check that. And the other thing you can do here is you can change the font as well. So we'll leave it blue. You can change the size of it. As a default, the primary value is always a bit bigger than the secondary value. The other thing you can do is you can change the color of the primary value. So this blue over here and this gray, this is what this blue and this gray box lets you do. So if you wanted to make this, for example, orange, you can make this orange. And then if you wanted to make that gray black, for example, this is how you would do it. So now the actual value here would be orange, and then the second part here would be black. So let's go ahead and just go back to the colors that we had before. Okay. And then you can do the exact same thing for secondary values. So in this case, let's uncheck this. So it's going to disable the secondary value. In this case, sometimes you just want to show the performance result for one value. You don't want to actually compare it to something else. So that's how you would do that. So you would uncheck this checkbox. I'm going to go ahead and check that again. And then over here, these are the same options as above. You can decide to show or hide the secondary title. You can show or hide the secondary value. And then, of course, you can control the font and the colors as we did above for the primary value. And then finally, that third piece of information is the target. So what you can do is, again, if you don't need to show it, you can disable it by unchecking this box. In this case, let's go ahead and show it again. And then what you can do is you can change the color. So if you don't want it red, if you wanted it black, for instance, so the little triangle will change from red to black. And then you can show the title or not show it. It's up to you using this checkbox. You can change the font of that as well. And then finally, same idea with the value. So that 40 million, if you don't want to show it, you can uncheck that box. And in this case, you can also change the font. Usually, it's a good idea to match the font color with the color of the triangle, just so people make that association. And then finally, there's other options as well. So earlier I mentioned you can decide to show or not show the min and max values. As a default, they're there. It helps people kind of just get a sense of what they're looking at. And then you can also change the font, the size, the color of the min and max values here. And then the other thing you can do is you can adjust the thickness of the dial. So when you adjust the thickness here, you'll notice that the blue part gets thicker, and then the green automatically follows based on that ratio that's already predefined. The other thing that you can do is there's this little divider line in between the two values. So if you don't want to show that, you can uncheck that. You can also increase the size of that divider line and of course change the color as well. So finally, the last thing that you can do here in this dialog window is click on the accessibility button. So as with all of our infographics, you can add alt text to that infographic. That way, when somebody that has a visual impairment uses screen reading software, they can still access the information. So as a default, it reads out that this is an engaged dial infographic. Use Control-Shift-D to access the raw data in Excel. So when they do that, they'll access the Excel embedded worksheet that we had open earlier, and they can access and modify that raw data if they like. And then the other thing that you can do as well is this dial shows, you can add your own alt text just to provide that additional context as well. And so that's how you add the dial infographic. To give you some more ideas, design ideas, what you can do is you can click on the slide library and go down to reporting. And over here, you'll see some examples of that performance dial infographics here as well, to just give you an idea of different things you can do on the slide with this infographic. So that was the dial infographics. Thank you.